It
Well,
is in Arch user repositories as well, so people are apparently downloading it.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So, it's no mistake. So we actually contacted the maintainers of the themes in the various distros and what have you. And this was a product of that design sprint back in January, because we wanted to make sure that Yaru was available everywhere other distro users are, and more so where other developers are, so that they're easily able to install it and make sure their applications are working correctly. Or rather, we haven't done something that breaks their applications inadvertently. So that's one of the reasons why it exists in so many places.
yep. All right. It is 9:05, and we said that we were going to not do a big distro challenge section, and we ended up talking about an hour and 5 minutes anyway.
well, it's Ubuntu.
That's 'cause it's
so-
awesome.
No,
I mean,
but I think it comes
yeah.
from this is what people want to talk about rather than forcing somebody to talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it, don't talk about it,
Yeah.
So, and the stream has cut out once or twice in between there, but like I said, I'm still recording. So,
Yeah.
Cool.
all right. So I have some personal things that I need to go over. One is I want to thank John Anderson. He actually watched the Biddle Europe last week or the week, not last week, last month.
Yeah.
We talked about audio production and we talked about the audio quality and how I wanted to raise the quality of Linux Spotlight and this here in particular, Biddle. And he ended up having we mentioned a DBX 286 and he had one and offered to send it here to me to have as a gift to the channel and to raising the audio quality. So that was an awesome thing of him to do, and I really appreciate it. And I probably said I wasn't going to mention his name, but I mentioned his name anyway.
That's okay. That's credit where credit's due there.
That was a complete surprise and an awesome thing. I do not have it set up yet. I do have it, but I don't have it set up yet because I'm waiting for XLR cables from Amazon, which are not considered essential. So they're taking much longer than they normally would to get here. Otherwise, it would probably be in place already. So
I ordered some Lysol 6 weeks ago and it's still not here. So if that ain't essential.
Big Daddy Live's not essential?
It's not
Since
essential,
when?
dude.
Oh, come on.
Rocco, I'll be very curious what you think of it. I had actually been researching that after I stumbled across that, but I hadn't really gotten the chance to look at it any further. So I'll be curious what you end up thinking.
Well, Ryan has swore by it for a few years now. He has one, and he said to me that I should have got one before, but there's only so many things you can buy all at once, and at this point it wasn't on the list to buy, but I really do appreciate getting it. So as soon as I can get it set up, Vash, I will let you know how it works out.
That's cool. And you need my wife to order your stuff for you because we have Amazon packages showing up every day.
Well, I don't know what it is. I guess they send out certain ones, but certain ones just get flagged
Maybe it's because
for
of the strike.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've even went on to Amazon and looked at buying something, and it'll stay right out. It's a month out for shipping.
I know.
So
But then it comes in a week anyway.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
hit
I
or miss.
found.
I've had stuff that says, "Oh, well, it's not going to get there until mid-May." 3 days later, it's on my doorstep. So
There it is.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I
you're-
haven't had
you're
that
looking-
experience.
Yeah, I'm
You're
just
looking
shocked
at the
how many
cone of-
people Sorry. Go right ahead, Martin.
No, go for it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, why can't we, I haven't seen many people protesting about this on Twitter or anything, considering canceling their subscriptions yet.
Nah.
So you can see the cone of clean here.
Mhm.
Very specifically this
Corner.
shot, because all the packages that we've ordered in like the last 6 weeks arrived in the last 4 days, and I shit you not, the rest of this room is like absolutely rammed with empty boxes that I've had to break down, and I don't know what to do with because I can't take them to the recycle center. So the rest of my office, I have to actually clamber over piles of cardboard to get in and out of the room.
But
Well, along with the DBX 286, there was a gentleman in the discourse forums that posted about he had heard the same episode and offered to help with the audio quality, and I really appreciate that. And I talked to him about, how we might go about that, but there's with me back working 50 hours a week and Linux Spotlight and Biddle, there's just no way that I have time to dive into that kind of stuff. So I appreciate the offer, appreciate the help, but yeah, that's probably not going to happen for a while.
You'll get there, Rocco.
We'll get there.
I
So
didn't even know there were 50 hours in a week. That's pretty cool.
there's many more than that. So we're not picking a distro per se, but we are picking a distro. So again, the distro challenge is not going to be quite as structured as it was, but somebody might have planned out the scheduling of the distros that we're trying, and it might have been scheduled so that Ubuntu Mate is next, so that the next Biddle Europe, it lands on when we're giving our opinion on Ubuntu Mate. Just saying, Martin.
When is that next week?
Biddle Europe is next Saturday.
That's brilliant timing. Okay, then. It just so happens I'm not doing anything.
That's awesome. I love it.
Certainly you are now.
Yeah, so you're more than welcome to show up to Europe next week, and we'll probably talk about it on Europe, and who knows, we may talk about it on the late show.
3 times on the bounce. I'll be practically a regular at that point.
Yeah, we'll get you a job. You keep coming.
Yeah, do remind me, because I get confused when you switch them to European time, and I just need to make sure I've got all the family stuff done, hoofed children into beds and things.
He's got a job, and I want him to keep it.
And maybe we'll even get Barb to participate in this. You're muted, Barb.
Muted.
But she's like,
What? Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I can.
Perfect
I
euphemism.
know after a while I just kind of glaze over as you guys are.
Yes, I know. But again, this is not something mandatory. You don't have to try it, and we're not going to go down the list and call you out for it. It's just going to be, if you want to talk about it, you're more than welcome to. So, all right, on to next business. Who's got, what do they got who want to bring up? Anybody?
Wow, nicely done.
That was
Rocco.
perfect.
Tony,
Seamless.
do you have it installed?
So,
Seamless.
I have a question for everyone. I
Thomas.
posted this on the forum, I think maybe a week or two ago. I am looking for an app where I can point it to other apps on my system, and it will launch in the background whenever my computer boots, and time how long I am in each of those apps I designate. And I have found a number of apps that I can manually say I have started doing this thing and I have stopped doing this thing, but I don't want to do something manual. I just want to tell it, I want you to track this app and go. And it just times me. Someone, I don't remember their name, in that forum thread suggested Flatpak called Workflow. And I did try that. I couldn't figure out how to use it. So I've started making my own app, but I'd rather not. So has anybody got any suggestions on things that I can try otherwise before I go all in on this?
So Thomas, is this more or less like digital well-being?
No, but yes. It's more of, I want to know how long I am, or how much time I'm putting into certain projects. That way I can say, oh, this is how much time I'm putting into this project per week. So, maybe it's less of a hobby and more of like a part-time job, or, something like that.
I believe I can script this with systemd. I'll send you some messages. I mean, assuming you're using systemd, because I know it's terrible and everybody hates it, but
Okay, because the way I've started doing this is, so there's a command you can use called pgrep, and you can do, like, for instance, right now, if you did pgrep zoom in a terminal, it would say give you the process ID for Zoom, which is great for checking to see if something's running. So I'm trying that in a Python script. But if I can have something that works with the system at a little bit lower level, it'll probably have better performance than just calling pgrep.
So how would you differentiate? Oh, my video back on. How do you differentiate between something you're using? You know, Telegram, for example, is on one window. Zoom is over here. I have a web browser over there. I have Joplin over there. Like, I'm using all of these things right now, but I'm not actually using all of them, if that makes any sense. Like,
Yeah.
how do you differentiate between those sorts of problems?
So on the one I'm working on, you don't. It just tracks however long an application is open, and it assumes that, you know, if an application is open, you're using it. Other ones I have heard, it actually watches your screen and takes screenshots in the background every once in a while, and I do not like that. That is an invasion of privacy, sir. Let's not do that.
You could just look at which window is active and just catalog.
Yes.
You know, this is the active window. This is the start time now, and the other window is active. This is the start time, therefore, and you know, track things that way.
Okay.
You could also possibly not log like specific network data, but see like when things are actually communicating en masse through the network. So like if you start a transfer for something on your project and then move to another window, maybe perhaps things that are let's say out of the ordinary and probably only happen with that project, like large network transfers, you could probably also keep track of those as well. So if something is happening in the background, you probably still have that as part of your log.
Nate, this sounds like something that would interest you.
Yeah, go Nate.
Is my volume okay?
It's a little low, maybe, but not bad.
It's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So Thomas, I do something very similar, but what I do is I use a little notebook next to my computer, and I actually write down what it is that I'm working on, and that's how I keep track of it. And the really neat thing is, like, any updates on my computer never affects this, and it works. It's cross-platform. I'm just saying.
There's this stylus like
is it bad that I was going to say build a little rack with like 10 stopwatches in it, and you just push the button on which one you're doing?
I like Nate's idea because that's how I do things.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It does.
If you want to computerize it, you can just put the information in a file.
Come on, Alex. You can automate this somehow, can't you?
I like Nate's version. That's how I do it.
I understand that this is the way that is probably just most obviously easy, you know, but there's an issue that it's going to end up taking way more time for me, because not only do I want the amount of time that each of these that I'm using each of these apps, I want to be able to go in and have a total so that I can say I have been in each of these apps for a given number of time, and this is the total. So if I have like 2,000 usages and I want to total all of these, you know, I'm not going to manually write down each of these and manually add them on paper. I'm not going to type them into a computer or an Excel spreadsheet and have it add them myself. I want to be able to say, okay, you take all of these, add them.
Well, isn't what you're asking for is like what iOS has for like screen time?
Correct. That's what I was going to say.
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah.
But I just want something on Linux because I'm not going to use Apple.
Obviously. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to wrap my head around what you're asking.
Yeah.
So,
and like the way I'm doing it now is I have a script that I modify for every single app that I want to track, but I have to modify it in different ways for different apps. And that becomes very confusing. And some apps, it just dumps garbage into the log file. And I have to go in and manually edit that, and it doesn't track the time for that app.
Is there no kind of
spyware you can download for this? Like, I'm pretty sure there's some malware out there that'll do just what you need.
The problem
Some
with that
kind of a
method,
keylogger.
especially
And
if
more.
you're doing it per app, is that you're going to be wasting tons of CPU cycles, basically duplicating work.
I think
like,
Easy
the
Anti-Cheat
reason-
does that.
It
Yeah,
does.
Valorant's Vanguard's pretty good at it too.
Just write something that captures the current active window title and keep and I don't know, sticks it in separate files even by window title name, and in each of those files is the amount of time that it was run, in each instance, and then that can be summed, and then it doesn't matter which application you care about, you'll just have all of them, and you'll be able to sum up the actual time those windows were active, and therefore you were using those applications rather than just having them open and in the background doing nothing.
There may be something that's already out there right now for that. That's called activity time. So you might want to check it out. It's on GitHub or Activity Watch. Sorry, activitywatch.net. And then you can just check out their GitHub page and grab the Linux version of it. And it seems like it's doing exactly what you want. If the window's open, you're working on it. It's timing it.
Yeah.
Does it work on Wayland as well? I'd be curious to
What
see
works
how they
on
handle
Wayland?
that.
Yeah, right. Probably
Well,
not.
Thankfully, that's not something I'm worried about. It can work on X and only X, and I'll be happy.
Nothing really works on
Which-
Wayland, so
I'll go ahead and throw this out there. If I end up having to develop my own app for this, yes, the source code will be available, and I will try to package it for different distros.
if you need any help packaging, I can help with that.
I will definitely need help for anything non-Debian.
I'm pretty good at that now.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your help. I appreciate it because I've been ripping my hair out trying to find an app that'll do this. And it's either A, super old, or B, doesn't do what I want, or C, is unusable.
Cool.
All right. I wanted to bring up last week about the Ubuntu 2004 survey results that everybody I know took part in, right? Everybody took part in the Ubuntu survey.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't give them my data. What are you talking about, Rocco?
And it's perfect because, Martin's here, so, we can always get his take on it. So, but anyway, there was a post on the Ubuntu website about the survey results. They broke it down, but there was a couple things that I found, kind of interesting as I'm reading through this. And it's I'm going to quote some of the things that are on there. So it says 2 years ago, we made the switch from the canonical developed Unity desktop environment to GNOME 3.28. The move was controversial in the community, but was made because ultimately people were already using GNOME and liked what they had. So our efforts in Unity were seen as fragmentation and not innovation. That is something that I never really, that reasoning, I didn't hear about. I heard all kinds of different things of why people didn't like Unity, but that part of it was never really, I don't know, the main reason why people said that. I don't know what your guys' opinion on that is.
Well,
So-
go on.
I was gonna say I'm relatively new to the Linux sphere, so I haven't really experienced a lot of the sort of like in like how GNOME used to be and like when Unity started. But everything that I've heard from people that like moved away from Ubuntu when Unity came along, or moved towards other things, or just were unhappy, they all just kind of seemed to want GNOME too. And what I noticed was as Unity sort of grew and progressed, I got in around 1604 where it was really, really good. The people who were unhappy with it were the same people that tended to think that like Mir was sort of done in hostility to kind of have everything done in-house. Like, I feel like people stick to something and then other things seem like threats, or they just don't seem appealing.
Well, a lot of people will tout the fragmentation part of Linux as, awesome. And it is awesome. But I never heard that explained in that way before about that switch. It was usually the same people that are saying fragmentation is good. They're not going to use that as an argument against Unity, which I'm
not sure I'm not sure that people say fragmentation is good. I think people say that choice is good. But, you know, at a time where people were coalescing around GNOME, to go our own way was seen as fragmentation. And I made the point earlier. I asked somebody why in the chat they were choosing to do a particular thing. I wasn't so much interested in what they were doing, but the why they were doing it. And so what that survey did, you will notice it wasn't a bunch of tick boxes and sliders, you know, where you just get to choose your pre-canned answer. It was very open-ended text, so people could actually explain to us in their own words what they felt about things. Now, that makes our job quite tricky to analyze that data because it's broadly all free-form text, but you get a much better response. And this is one of the responses is that you would hear, I hate Unity, but nobody was ever explaining why. And now they have. Or what now they have, but equally, there's an awful lot of people that loved it and still love it. You know, it's kind of difficult.
Yep. Another thing on this survey, it says of the 21,291 people who made it to the last page of the survey, 51.1% were from Europe, 22.4% were from North America, and 12.1% from Asia, and the rest from elsewhere. So 51% were from Europe, which I think is, well, maybe not an astounding number, but it was surprising. You know, I don't want to. It was surprising to me to see them kind of numbers. Let's put it that way. The last thing I wanted to bring up about it was with the official Ubuntu taking the lead with 85.4% of respondents using it. Kubuntu, Xubuntu, and Ubuntu Mate all came pretty close to a second spot. So 85%, Martin, that doesn't leave a lot for the other flavors to get, basically.
Yeah, and remember, this is 21,000 people are giving their opinion, right? The difference is a lot bigger than that. There's far more people using Ubuntu than the flavors when you actually look at the numbers. Now, I can't share what those are. Let me say this. The space that's left for the flavors is the fraction of a percent based on the number of people using Ubuntu. So that said, there's still a large volume of people using the flavors. You know, it can be counted in hundreds of thousands.
Yep. Well, then you just got to do the backwards math. That's all.
I didn't say how many hundreds, and I didn't say how many hundreds for each of the flavors. So you're grappling in the dark there.
Yep. Well, anybody else have any thing they want to add to the survey results? Anything they found interesting about it? All right, good.
Well, my question would be is, were the questions the right questions? What didn't we ask that you would have liked to have seen on there?
To be honest with you, that was longer than yesterday, so I don't remember.
I was gonna say I don't remember. Like I remember taking it, but I have no idea what I answered.
Does anybody remember when was the survey going on? Because I think I took it, but I don't remember when that was.
I want to say fall of last year.
Yeah, it was end of December last year, just before Christmas.
Of course, it seems like April has lasted all of 2020 anyway. So
right, yeah. I mean, I can't believe it's May. Last time I checked the calendar properly, it was March.
Yep. All right, Dan, you brought up something the other week.
I did a couple of weeks ago. I brought up, the question for folks, what do you host at home, right? And, when you really think about it, a lot of us do have something, even if it's small, that we have, just a little thing, because we're all enthusiasts here. So I started a discourse thread and got some really interesting results from that. I didn't post, but I will share right now with the group some of the things that I find as a highlight. One of them is Nextcloud, and I only recently installed Nextcloud I mean, I've been hosting things for a long time, but one of the things that sparked it was actually something my wife was looking at doing, and that was getting her cookbook stuff into some sort of digital format that she could have on multiple devices. And so there's an add-on you can get for Nextcloud. So I did that, and I'm finding a whole bunch of great things that obviously go along with that. So that's been an exciting journey for me, and we got some good results, basically, on the thread of other things that people host on their own. And I don't know, probably one of the other things that's kind of a big deal, I guess, is the same sort of thing, file storage, um, keeping track of your stuff in multiple places, because you should back up. I mean, that's always a good idea. And yeah, so that was a topic of discussion.
Well, we just happen to have Alex here who enjoys that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Nextcloud is like the kind of cliche choice at this point. It's kind of like, yeah, of course, everybody that wants to do self-hosting runs Nextcloud. And Chris and I don't really talk about it, even though both of us use it every day. All of JB's production goes through Nextcloud, and it's just great. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that we have that as an open source project as an option is just fantastic. Now, another option for cookbooks you might want to look at is something called Chowdown. I've been
Okay.
using this for about a month or so, and it's just super simple. Little cookbook, digital cookbook, plain text files, which is also really nice. Which leads me into my issue this week. I had Joplin kind of lost its mind and deleted about 4 hours worth of writing I'd been doing. I was writing away, and I left the app open on my desktop overnight, and for whatever reason, Joplin decided that the sync that was in Nextcloud was more important than what I'd had locally, and overwrote what was on my desktop.
Oh, wow.
And I came back in the morning and it was just gone. So I was quite cheesed off by that. But so, self-hosting is great until
Yeah.
until you create your own problems. But
That sounds like it would be a problem that I did. Yep.
Some of my favorite self-hosted apps, Plex, another obvious one.
Yeah.
I discovered this week you can self-host a Music Brains mirror, which is kind of cool. I do a self-hosted speed test with Libre Speed. I run about 25, nearly 30 now applications on my server, and I'm going to post my Docker Compose file into the chat so that anybody that is curious can look at all the crap that I run. But yeah, if you're interested in that kind of thing, plug, self-hosted.show. We talk about it every week.
So to build on what Alex was saying about Nextcloud, and also Dan as well, the Ubuntu podcast use SyncThing as the means to share our show assets around, because we don't need a document, don't need all of the features of Nextcloud. So we've each got an instance of SyncThing running in our homes, and that's how we shunt that data around. And just today, I have set up AdGuard at home. And if you're not familiar with AdGuard, the AdGuard Home Edition is epic. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it. So think Pi-hole, but actually good, and not made with bits of string and blue tack. So yeah, AdGuard is terrific. And then, as Alex said, I have a Plex home server that I've been running for, I don't know, must be getting close to 10 years now, something like that. And I do a rather cheeky thing. I have a little PVR script. So all of our favorite programs from the BBC get automatically sucked down from the iPlayer and injected into our Plex server. so we can watch them through Plex. So there's a series running at the moment that we really like, but we're not going to go like steam powered television and have to wait a week between episodes. So we'll just let that ingest over 10 weeks, and then we'll be able to binge the whole thing in a weekend when we've got them all collected up.
The only way to watch it.
Yeah, it's a Netflix mentality, right?
Someone in the chat asked, "Do you guys have one big machine?" Yes, I do actually. I built, because I spin up a lot of OpenShift stuff for work. I needed something with it's got 128 gigs of RAM, my server, so I can spin up 2 or 3 Kubernetes clusters at once. But the nice upside is that when I want to do stuff for messing about, I have lots of resources, and I just have one big box that runs, I don't know, a dozen VMs, and I can do everything I need in that one big box. The downside, and I used to run PFSense actually as a VM on that machine with PCI pass-through for the network card. But the downside of that was whenever I wanted to reboot that box, my internet also went down. And so after about 6 months of that, I finally decided to just build $100 cheap x86 system to run PFSense as a dedicated box. So I actually have 2 servers effectively. I've got one that's a PFSense router only, and then the other one is running ESXi in my basement, and it just works beautifully well.
This is all geek to me.
That's really
nice. It goes over my head.
My home server is an Intel NUC that used to be my workstation from, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I think it's got 16 gigs of RAM in it, and I have 2 4-disc enclosures, and each of those are connected to separate USB 3 ports on the back. And I have a primary array and a secondary array, and it runs off the primary and it synchronizes to the secondary periodically. So there's the secondary's bigger, and it's got deltas of the snapshots going back in time. So if I've got restore points, but it just runs on a NUC with a bunch of disks attached over USB 3, which is surprisingly more than fast enough to stream full HD and 4K movies around the house.
Martin and I share a love of a bit of software called Merger FS.
Yeah.
Which allows you to have multiple hard drives of different sizes, of different file systems, presented under one single mount point. So each of his USB drives, for example, is presented just under /mount/storage or whatever.
Yeah.
Rather than 10 different drives you have to navigate through one by one. It's just magic.
And unlike traditional RAID solutions, this is great for the home because it means only one of those, if it's in use, only one of those disks is ever spinning, because the file that you want isn't sprayed across multiple disks. The file that you want is on a single drive because it aggregates drives, not stripes the data. So it's actually good for heat and power. It doesn't consume as much heat because they're not all spinning all the time, and it doesn't generate as much heat as well. So that was a problem that I had here. Believe it or not, in the UK in the summer, I lost some discs a couple of years ago because they overheated in the hot, because we don't have air conditioning, because that would be crazy because you'd only use it one day a
2
year.
years ago was the hottest summer ever, though, if I recall.
Yeah, it was. That was the year I lost them. Yeah. In fact, they're there on the windowsill to remind me. I've kept them.
They're still cooling off.
Yeah.
I'm laughing in Southern American heat right now, but it
Right,
was really
yeah.
hot that summer.
But
So
then
I do want.
my
Go ahead.
AdGuard is running on Ubuntu Core on a Raspberry Pi.
Cool.
On a Raspberry
So
Pi 3.
I do want to point out, though, I mean, that's 2 different extremes as far as physical size. Alex has obviously got a physical server that's like made to be server-y, and Martin's actually rededicated a standard desktop. So I guess that points out that you can run some of these things on just about anything you got lying around and at least get yourself started on doing some great stuff.
If you want something even cheaper and smaller than Martin's, I've got a Pi 3.
Yeah.
And I've got a Western Digital MyBook attached to it, and it's running an own cloud server that I can access from anywhere. So, I mean, I've got, it's all of less than $100.
I'm amazed we made it 15 minutes into this conversation without the Pi coming up. Actually, it's a fantastic option.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
The only thing that lets the Pi 4 down, a Pi 3, you can USB boot. The only thing that lets the Pi 4 down, in my opinion, is the you have to boot from an SD card still. You can do Pixie boot and that kind of stuff if you're that way inclined.
There's firmware updates coming to turn on USB booting though.
Oh, soon, please.
Yeah.
I've been waiting months.
Right.
Honestly, I thought about taking my Rock Pro 64 and doing something with it, but I decided not to because Plasma Big Screen came out, and it's the only ARM board that I have that I can do actual ARM development on because it's not running Android. So it's kind of tied up in developing for ARM Linux that's not Android.
Still an affordable option though, so it's not
It
too
is.
terribly expensive.
And as far as I'm aware, it's the only ARM-based single board computer that you can get that has a PCIe slot. So if you wanted to, you can stick like a gigabit Ethernet card or something like that in, and it'll work.
I'd love to see an HBA card. You know, one of those ones that you put a couple of SAS connectors into. It turns 2 ports into 8 ports.
Yep.
And you have to power the 8 hard drives. But I'd still love to see a Rock Pro with 8 hard drives connected to it. That'd just be so cool.
I'm trying to. So the kernel that they use on the Rock Pro 64 does not have the NoView drivers built in, which makes a lot of sense. You know, you wouldn't expect somebody to use a dedicated graphics card with these, but that's exactly what I'm trying to do because I have a old-ish. It's a GT 710 that I'm trying to get to work with it, and I have to build my own kernel, which I'm perfectly fine with. I do it all the time anyway. But I got to find a way to get that Rock Pro 64 to boot with it so I can actually try that. But it should have enough power barely to run the thing. So
This is a card I'm trying to get working with some ARM SBCs at the moment. So you probably can't see, but
That looks like 4 NVMe.
Yes.
That is 4 NVMe sockets on a PCI bus.
Yep.
So yes.
PCIX,
Yeah.
So
It's
Martin, I have a problem with
cool
that.
bit of kit that.
Uh-oh.
Go on.
I have one of those cards, and I got.
Oh, you have this one?
I have. I don't know if that is that the Asus.
No, this is Sedna.
Okay, so I have the Asus card, and I have 2 NVMe drives for it. The computer's only recognizing 1.
Oh dear.
So I'm not sure if it's an issue where. So I already have 2 NVMe's in the motherboard, and I know that sometimes, like I know that it only has certain lanes or whatever. So when you plug in 2 NVMe's, you lose some SATAs. I'm not sure if it's something like that I have already 2 on the motherboard that it is only going to recognize 1. I don't know.
I know what the issue is. Okay,
What?
right. So each NVMe drive is 4 PCI lanes. So if you're plugging it into a 4-lane PCI socket, then only one of those drives is going to be accessible. So
you need
if
to use
you
a
want,
16X.
if you've got 2, if it's got 2 slots on it, it needs to go into an 8-lane PCI slot.
Aha. Thank you very much. Going to check that out.
It should be written 8X on the motherboard beside the slot.
If you've ever wondered why people like Wendell make a big deal of Threadripper having, 64 PCIe lanes, that's why.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's because you have to have 4 NVMe drives and 4 graphics cards and
right.
And it's even more important than that because at the moment on Intel they will give you maybe I think mine has got 24, but of course the graphics card needs 16 of those. But then it's also where are the others? They're not connected to the CPU. They're usually on the PCH, and then the performance is garbage. So what AMD have been doing with just adding gobs of PCI lanes is just wonderful.
Well, I also have the 2080 in there, so that's taken up some of that too.
That's
16X.
Right. Yeah.
Well, go ahead and just give me that 2080. You'll free up some room.
Yeah, I mean, you just send them away. That's cool.
I like that 2080 for Call of Duty, so no, I can't do that, Jason.
Yeah.
All right, Shickle's had his hand up for a while.
Oh gosh, I have. That's weird. Actually, no, I'm fascinated by this, especially with the splitting off on like the Rock Pros with like different drives. But most, well, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of network routers and things like that have USB ports on them as well. So if you also can't afford a separate computing unit, you can probably just plug in through USB a storage unit of whether it even be just like a USB drive or if you have an actual NAS, you can just plug it right in through USB. You don't always need like a separate computer to host your network storage if you know budgeting is an issue.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, like things that I self-host, all of our photos get saved locally in a number of places, but there's this thing called Pawigo, which I mentioned a couple times before. And you know, it's not Google Photos, but it's pretty dang decent actually. And once you figure out how to set up website stuff, which is not my thing, it's not a bad solution for browsing your library, and we can basically aggregate all of our data from whether things are like Facebook uploads or Twitter uploads or whatever, because phones store them in weird places. Basically, that all gets thinged into a machine and uh, put into a library. And we could browse them all in one place, no matter what service we uploaded them to or took them from. And it's pretty great.
Another cheap entry level option that I actually started with was Western Digital. They make the MyBooks USB discs, but they also make a MyCloud that plugs into a network port that you can actually access from the internet. And I actually put one of those hooked into my router and used that as my file server before I got the Pi set up.
Those are really neat.
Cool. Let's see. I think Nate, probably you're next.
Yes. So I have I'm not like you, most of you who like the new shiny. I have more like the Millennium Falcon of servers in my house. It's like
Nice.
whatever parts I can scrap together to kind of meet something. So I have an MSI motherboard with an AM3 chipset. So I put the fastest one I could put in there, which is an FX 9590, I think, and so 220 watt TDP. So it keeps my basement nice and warm when I'm pushing
Yep.
it. It's really nice. I like it. I even roast marshmallows over it, on those special occasions. But I threw an extra SATA card in there, 6-port SATA card. So I have 6 2 terabyte spinning Rust drives that are rated in RAID 10, so that I have because it's the Millennium Falcon, so things are just going to break, and so knowing that I can swap out drives as I need to, and then I did ButterFS so I can grow that array. Then as things start to kind of deteriorate, I can just keep growing it, and so it's been running great. Been using it since November, and no regrets. I really actually hardly push it, honestly, but yeah, I have an MB server on it, and then it does like my file serving in the house. I'm like Martin and I use sync thing for everything, and so that if the server does go down, which it might, everything else can talk to each other too to synchronize my files around. So, but yeah, and it's running Tumbleweed on it, so I haven't had any issues yet. And did I say an MB server? I have that going as well.
Yep,
that seems to work pretty well. But I'm going to try out Jellyfin at some point in time, and also do Home Assistant on there. I'm gonna do a Docker image of that, and then I really want to do Nextcloud when I get the time. But I'm gonna have time in the next 2 weeks. Not gonna say why, but I'll have lots of time. So I'm excited.
Cool.
Alex, were you going to jump in with something about the photos?
Yeah, a buddy of mine over at Linux Server IO is working on a new Photos app called Filter. I just put a link in the chat. It's not finished yet. It's pretty new. It's pretty rough, but it works. And
thanks.
He's a pretty smart kid. So if you like it, put a comment on GitHub, let him know you like it, and give it a whirl. He's quite open to feedback and stuff like that.
Cool.
All right, Big Pod.
Yep.
I host a bunch of stuff on my network. Actually, most of the stuff are hosted on my old desktop. So it's an i5 4th generation, nothing special, with 12 gigs of RAM. On there, I have like 2 instances of GitLab for different stuff, including its CI/CD function so I can automatically build packages for myself. I also on it I have SMB, so Samba, Share, and Nextcloud instance. So I have for that from anywhere in the world really. If I connect myself with VPN and a VPN server, that's few of the most important things I host on my network. But I also sometimes use my laptop as a server. So I have VM that's specifically for this stuff. So basically as a backup, if either I need a huge job to compute, you just need some load balancing. I can do that.
So when you said CI/CD, you reminded me that the other thing I have running on my server is Git-T. Git-T is like self-hosted GitHub, and that's where I've just got some of my like dot files and a few of my little scripts and stuff I run at home that nobody ever needs to see. So yeah, I use that for my private code stuff.
Did you know
brilliant.
Git-T, Gitea, Gitty, Git-T? However you say
Git-T.
it.
Have you seen the logo? It's Git-T.
Git-T, okay.
The letter T or the word T? T-E-A.
Tea, as in
T-E-A.
cup of tea.
Git-T. You can actually use it to mirror any GitHub or GitLab repository on a. So I think it's a webhook. Whenever somebody pushes to a remote repository, it will then clone that to your local. So if GitHub ever, I don't know, eats everybody's code, then I've got all of my stuff backed up locally.
Yeah,
just in case.
I use Git-T to back up all of the Mate desktop stuff. Sorry, what do you use?
I use my GitLab instance. I use GitLab.
Right.
I have it hosted on my server, so I do all the backups in there.
Yeah, I have a GitLab instance too. And it runs on my free NAS, but anyway.
I know it's super silly because these things are like super superficial, but I really like the layout of GitLab in terms of like the web interface. It's been, just it feels easier to me to like follow certain releases and look for stuff, and it's probably just that I'm bad at GitHub, but it just seems easier to me, so I really appreciated how they designed that.
Colin.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring something up for one of our followers that contacted me via Gmail. His name's Dennis Hallman, and he said, and some people may know him from chat. I've seen him in chat. He's commented on my videos a few times. He's been watching Biddle, been participating in chat, but getting no responses. And when he watches it back, he's not even in chat. So he doesn't know what the problem is, and he's wondering if there's anyone that could help him out that may have experienced this problem whatsoever.
Yes. There are a couple of potential options. One is that YouTube either people have marked his messages as spam and YouTube is sort of automatically filtering them, or YouTube has potentially decided upon itself that based on either account details or certain wording of comments in the past or just lack of activity and unusual activity, it will oftentimes strip out things from existence, basically. So when he chats in a channel, to him, everything will seem like it's working, but no one else will see it because it's basically, I think it's called a shadow ban.
Yeah, that's what Michael's just put in chat.
Yeah.
Well, I see him often. I mean, he shows up on my channel. He goes by Dennis Hallman, and he goes by Life and Home Linux, and maybe he's changing his name back and forth.
Oh, that's him as well, is it? Life at Home.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Right.
I mean, I see him and I respond to him. I don't know.
Maybe is it two separate accounts? So maybe one of his accounts is being shadow banned, the other one's not.
Could be.
Possibly. He's not here tonight because he said he was going to be here. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Huh.
Okay.
All right.
I've got a YouTube channel. He can come and chat in if he wants.
I think an old
Good
friend
one
wants to-
too.
Yeah, actually, Martin just
Yeah.
made a big jump at his YouTube channel, I think.
I don't even know if I'm subscribed to Martin's channel, to be honest.
Oh,
what? Colin.
Wow. I'm not sure. I'm subscribed.
Oh, man.
I can't believe
know
this.
when to dislike the video.
I can't believe this.
Let me find the ban button. And we'll take
Where's
care
the
of
shadow ban?
Shadow ban.
All right, before we move on, there were two guys that still had their hands up, Vash and Jason. So Vash, you wanted to get on the self-hosting, I think, maybe? Vash? Vash. Calling
You're
Vash.
muted, Vash.
Sorry about that.
All right.
So yeah, I've actually been messing around with a lot of container stuff in the past week or so. One thing I've been checking out a little bit is Bookstack. It's like a personal wiki, so I've been messing around with that a little bit.
Cool. Check that out.
If I might point you to Self-Hosted 15, I think. Chris and I reviewed about 5 or 6 different wiki programs. The one that I settled on for my personal use was TiddlyWiki. I don't know if the thing about wikis is that they're very personal. It's like me telling you what flavor of barbecue sauce you prefer. Right? It doesn't matter what I liked best. And so I came up with a sort of a methodology to try and pick out which wiki wins. And in the end, I came up with like 5 or 6 very small different articles. One was in Markdown, one had an image, one was very link heavy, that kind of stuff, right? And I just fired up 5 or 6 different wikis. I put the same articles into each wiki and just decided which one I liked the best. And I recommend that you just put an afternoon aside and try and do it all at once. And in that way, it kind of reduces the urge to distro hop or wiki hop, because you've tried all the options and you know that the grass isn't greener.
Yeah, that's the
I can
plan.
say that-
I haven't used it too much yet.
Cool.
I say TiddlyWiki is something I've been using for going on 8 years now, since even through the version change, and I use it for all my like local note taking. It's
so great.
It's great for a personal wiki.
You can the thing that sold me on TiddlyWiki was I liked to use the tags. I mean, the fuzzy search is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing was the tags. If I'm writing something about how I set up a specific container, it belongs in the Docker tag. It also belongs in the self-hosted tag. It also belongs, and you get quite often, things belong in more than one category, and a lot of software doesn't allow for that, but TiddlyWiki does. So I just love it.
They're reusable too, so you can actually have things interlinked, and it's really nice. It's like Markdown, really easy to use. It's super handy.
All right, Jason.
Well, I was just going to mention, we were talking about servers and stuff like that. And as you can see behind me, everybody calls us NASA. I do have over here, I have my file server that's always on. The monitors aren't on, but the file server's on. And then we have another Plex server upstairs that we run Plex throughout the house. Then we also have it set up so that, family members can, remote into it and use it as well. And I think that has, I want to say 4 or 5 4 terabyte drives set up, NAS drives. There's a software that we use. I forget the name of the software, but it's essentially the same thing that they were talking about earlier, where it makes all the drives one, so that you can, so it's all set up as one drive, so they don't all span and all that good stuff. We have that set up. We have a file share set up so that anybody can drop files back and forth and through the family and stuff like that. So that if we're working on whatever as a family, documents or whatever, just they need a place to store it. They have access to it because we have so much space. That, like my computer over here is like 8 hard drives in it. Ranging anywhere from 500 gigs all the way up to 4 terabyte. So it's just a bunch of stuff that we just have running on nonstop in the house. We have it set up so that it pulls down TV shows from YouTube TV, and also a TV tuner card with a antenna, HD antenna. So we just pull down all kinds of TV shows, and they automatically stores them and uploads them to Plex, so that it's constantly growing and continues to grow. We have cloud server where we store documents and stuff like that. That because we had a house fire, so we learned the hard way to make sure that you back up everything. That's not physical, not only just physical, because we lost a lot of important stuff when we had that house fire. So, excuse me. So I do recommend that if anybody does have a lot of important documents, don't keep them all in one spot. Get yourself a cloud server, external drives, all that kind of stuff. I get a bunch of everything. What we do is we take an external drive. We have a 4 terabyte drive that we put all our information on, and then we store it in a fireproof safe, and we only bring it out to update. That way, it's always stored so that we have all our important stuff set up so that we don't lose, years and years worth of documents that we may need for whatever purposes.
Yep.
But that's basically what we do in here. My brother and I, between us, we have like 20 computers, so we always have some sort of server up and running.
Well, what do they say? If it's not backed up to 3 different places, it's not backed up?
Exactly.
Yep. That's a good point.
A little hack
that you can successfully recover it. Because if you back it up to 3 places and you can't recover them, it's still not backed up.
You gotta test it.
Exactly. Yep. Oh yeah, let's get that hard drive in the fireproof safe. Like I said, it comes out. We hook it up, make sure it works, check the documents, upload, reback it back, reback up anything that's new, or not reback up, but back up anything that's new and confirm it's all there. Put it off to this, put it back. Safe.
Yep.
And it's safe.
A little trick that some people might not know about Google Suite. If you have a domain name, I think you can pay $12 a month to have them host your email and do a bunch of other stuff. But with that comes officially 1 terabyte of cloud storage. However, they don't check if you go over 1 terabyte. And I've had about 3 terabytes worth of stuff backed up there using Duplicati over the last 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And it just
nice.
$12 a month, and it's fully encrypted, so Google have no idea what's there.
Yeah, I got the upgraded Google Cloud thing as well. I didn't do the terabyte; that was a little excessive because I'm only backing up documents. And
this isn't Google Drive, just to be clear. This is G Suite for domain. So Google Drive is more expensive, but G Suite for domain comes with some Google Drive storage. So it's a favorite over at Data Hoarders, that one. So
and I believe it's actually per account. So you have quite. If you pay for 5 accounts, you can.
Well,
it is
okay.
quite.
Here's the rule. Officially, up to 5 users, it's limited to 1 terabyte per user, and after the 5th user, it goes to unlimited for everybody.
Yeah, but it
they
does have
check.
a limit. They do have a limit. If you have past 5 years, they do have a limit plus the upload limit.
Wow.
You can
3
check
terabytes has been fine.
Linus Tech Tips has a great video about that. How they want to put petabyte on their G Suite.
Of course he
but
did.
Couldn't go.
Of course he did.
It at some point it just stopped.
All right. Let's see. Prophetic, I think.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm sorry for being so late, but self-hosting is like a budding passion of mine, so I wanted to chime in real quick. Yeah, typical stuff with the Nextcloud, Plex, some of those services. But I just wondered, especially Alex, get his take on this. As someone who's like more of a newbie, do you think the networking side of accessing these services, like outside of your home, is probably something that can be done a little better? Because when I heard about Nextcloud, I instantly fell in love with the concept, but it took years of on and off learning, taking a stab at things to figure out the networking part, and keeping security in mind too, to access outside the home. It took a while for me to figure it out, because I was nervous about opening myself up, but also wanting to still tackle this amazing concept of self-hosting some information from there. So that's probably one of my biggest frustrations over the past couple of years, is all these great services, but then it's inside my own home network. Some of these services are really beneficial when you kind of go outside your home network and you try to brag about it with friends and family. Look what I can do with Linux for free and X, Y, and Z. It's kind of hard to do that. So I wanted to ask the group, how was that learning curve for everybody else? As a newbie, it was once I figured it out, I felt like it was incredible power, to see that. So just wanted to throw that part out there.
My general ethos is to open as few ports in my firewall as I possibly can. I think I have SSH open, I have port 80 and port 443, and now the WireGuard port. And between those 4, I can get into anything from anywhere remotely. And I'm so pleased that Ubuntu 20.04 has shipped or backported WireGuard into the 5.4 kernel. So I run Nextcloud locally, and I run it through a reverse proxy. An Nginx is the Linux servlet's encrypt image. And the reason I do that is so that I don't have to remember port numbers or anything like that. That's pretty nice. But the upshot is when I connect in from the outside world, well, I'm not going to leave my house right now, but one day, maybe I might in the future, I can just use WireGuard and then route my DNS over WireGuard, and then it's as if I'm on my LAN, no matter where I am in the world. I don't think anybody has any real business exposing Nextcloud, or for that matter, pretty much any other self-hosted app, to the internet without at least some form of basic authentication in front of it, whether that's HTTP through the reverse proxy or whatever. With the most love in the world, these apps are written by probably volunteers, and they're not going to be up to probably the same standard as a Google app or something like that, which have their problems too. So just bear that in mind. Try and be paranoid. Like if you have anything sensitive in there, like in my Nextcloud, for example, I have all scans of my passports and my birth certificates and that kind of stuff. Ain't no way I'm exposing that to the internet, you know?
Yeah, no.
Just in case. Be paranoid and you'll be safe.
Yeah, I personally didn't really care about security of dropping behind internet because all I did, I opened one port for VPN and that's it. I didn't think much about just VPN, and
Right.
and everything else is somewhat secure and because of that VPN, but cannot be 100% sure. That's the one rule we should all remember, that never you can be 100% sure it's secure.
I know it's getting a little late, so
We really have to.
Yeah,
We
okay.
really
We're
have
getting
to.
low on the time here.
We're way past time. It's not a little bit late. It's way past time. We still got to do last words and everything. So, Prophetic does this all the time to us. He always comes in at 9:55 and wants to start this extremely long conversation. So I blame him. But
sorry.
We are out of time. But everybody gets a last word. Dan Simmons, last word.
All right, thanks for indulging my my topic and all the discussion here. I think, thanks to the Ubuntu desktop team as well. Great fun this week, and thanks to you, Rocco, for hosting this great group.
All right. Well, it was an awesome topic. We could probably win another hour on it. Just saying. Vash, last word.
Thanks for the stream, and hopefully I can be back next week. We'll see how that goes.
It's good to have you back, brother. Tony.
Yes, it's installed.
He had to wait that couple seconds to let us know.
I think that's because he just finished it.
I think that was.
He
I think
waited to just complete it.
I actually was waiting for you to say, Rocco, to say last word, and you didn't, and I was waiting for that.
I was okay. So I thought you had froze. So
no.
All right.
We'll blame it on your internet. Don't worry about it.
There you go. Just blame everything on
I'll
the
keep it short and sweet because we are running a bit late. Thanks to you for doing this and to everybody that makes this possible. It's been a good show. Take care, everyone, and I hope to be back again and see you all next week.
All right, Tom, last word.
Thank you, Rocco, and thank you, everyone.
All right, Thomas, last word.
Caught me off guard there for a second. Well, thanks for having me again. Glad to see everybody's still healthy. See you next week. Oh, before I go, I have a video coming out Monday. It's on the Drugger OS channel. It's basically just a year-long report, just letting you know like the big stuff we did. If you want to watch it, I'll have it in the Telegram, Discord, links, and on the forum, maybe.
Why don't you put the link for your YouTube channel in chat?
Okay. I rarely post anything, but I will do.
Okay. Aris, last word.
Thank you for the stream. Looking forward to Ubuntu Mate. I'll check out AdGuard. I have Pi-holes, but since Martin mentioned AdGuard, I'll check those out. See if I can switch those over.
Dave Jones, last word.
Rocco, Dan, everyone else, thanks for all the hard work that you do for providing this great time we have every Saturday night. It's always a blast. I want to thank Martin and all the people at Canonical for releasing a great product. This, I believe, is the best Ubuntu that's been released in many a year, and I can't wait to talk about Ubuntu Mate next week.
There you go. MC, last word.
Once again, Rocco, thank you for providing this platform for everyone to get together and talk about all this stuff. And Martin and the Ubuntu development team, great job. Keep up the great work. I'm kind of excited to see what happens with 2010 now with your first major release with 2004, seeing what 2010 brings and all the different changes. And to everyone else, thank you guys for all the different suggestions and comments in regards to adding all the research I have to do for AdGuard and Music Brains hosting and all this other stuff that I wrote down that I'm like, hey, I got to check this stuff out now too. So,
ain't it great? Jason, last word.
As usual, I just want to say thank you for to Rocco and the group and the team that helped make this this whole thing possible. Thank you to the community for great chats tonight, great discussions, and just for being a great community. And you guys have a good night.
All right, Daniel, last word.
Yeah, Rocco, thanks for the stream as usual. Dan for helping out as usual. Martin, pass along the great work on Ubuntu to everybody involved. I think it's awesome. And thanks for all the suggestions out. Now I now have like 25 open tabs in Firefox of stuff I have to look at. So thanks for that. But all really great stuff. Looking forward to Ubuntu Mate, and see y'all next week.
Colin, last word.
Yes, thanks Rock and Co for the stream, and looking forward to trying Ubuntu Mate next week to see how that runs. I have been looking at Ubuntu Chillin as well. That's quite a nice looking desktop, I must say. So they're doing some nice things there as well. But Ubuntu Mate is the flavor of the week, and we'll check it out. Is this a challenge? Are we calling this a challenge?
No, it's not a challenge. It's a suggestion.
Just a try. That's a suggestion. All right. Okay. All right. So I'll make it a challenge.
Okay, you make it a
I'll
challenge.
Install it.
Okay. All right, Big Pod, last word.
Next week it's Middle Europe, so 9 p.m. Central European time. I believe, Martin, that means 8 p.m. for you. So remember that. And Tony, this time I beat you. I had Mate installed a day after it was released. And next week, probably the best distro that came out of 2004, Ubuntu Mate.
Kevin.
Yeah, thanks everybody for showing up and a great conversation. We'll see y'all next week.
Dave, last word.
Thank you, Rocco and crew. I want to thank everybody at Canonical and especially the mainline Ubuntu devs for putting out a truly incredible distro. Thank you to Nate for the analog call out, for the suggestion, and see you all next week.
Larry Johnson, last word.
Thank you, Rocco. A great show. I don't think anybody can brag about having Ubuntu Mate installed before Bill or Martin. And I look forward to hearing their impression of Ubuntu Mate next week.
Yep. Bill, last word.
Thank you, Rocco and Dan. Eric, Zeb, we miss you. Thank you to the Ubuntu desktop team, and thank you, Alex, for doing Spotlight. It was really cool. It was really very interesting.
Agreed. Martin, last word.
Thank you all for your feedback and questions and observations about Ubuntu 2004. I hope I was able to answer those candidly, not just for you, but for the other people that will watch this. So hopefully they'll get some value from that as well. And onward and upward next week, eh?
All right, Nate, last word.
Hey, thanks for having all of us, Rocco. It's always fun to hang out, and even if I'm just listening, because things, it's good times. So look forward to next week. Hopefully, I'll be there for Biddle Europe.
Chicken.
So hopefully not to be too self-serving. I made a video today about the shell tiling on Pop! OS, and I tried a new format, and I would love to see what people think of that. Basically, because I have this stupid wide screen, making videos on it is stupid. So I've basically output at 4K, but the lower half of the screen is like two 1080p screens. One's my webcam and one's something else. So if anyone wants to check that out, let me know what you think of the format. It's something new, inspired by Jason Evangelo's weird video trickery. So would love to see what people think of that.
All right, well, that's what the last word's for. So you should put a link to that video in chat. And Adam, last word.
Yeah, I didn't make a video, so don't bother watching anything.
Okay.
Thanks for the show. It's a good time. Good to see everybody here. Martin, you guys did a bang up job on Ubuntu. Good luck, doing better on the next one. And everybody have a good night.
JJ, Dr. Random.
Thanks very much, Rocco, for the stream. Thanks to Martin and all the people at the Ubuntu and all the flavors for all their work that they're doing. And hope you guys have a great week, and hopefully we can trudge through this world event.
Alex, last word.
Unmute would be helpful. Yeah, thanks for having me on your spotlight this week. That was pretty weird and cool at the same time. Great job to Martin and the Ubuntu team with a great release this week. And obviously related to the self-hosted discussions we've had in this episode, self-hosted.show for all of the self-hosting you can probably handle.
Steve, last word.
Rocco, you still just don't get it. I'm the one supposed to have the messed up streams. But thanks as always for putting this on. Great job on Ubuntu, Martin. I've actually been running it on my testing laptop for the last 3 or 4 days and getting very well used to it. Looking really good in that. And for those that want to be up early in the morning, I will be back on 8 a.m. Central Time for coffee and Linux.
I just got to try to keep you on your toes, Steve, so that you know that the other people can mess up streams too. So.
All right.
Prophetic, last word.
Thanks for having this awesome show. 2 quick things. One, don't tell Dolphin that I installed Ubuntu Mate. It's a secret. That's the first thing.
He won't know. Nobody will know.
Okay, good. Whew. Yeah, thanks for having this awesome show, and looking forward to next week. And I apologize for always swooping in so late and dropping those questions.
They're always good questions. You should just swoop in a little earlier.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right. I would like to thank Martin and the whole Ubuntu team and echo what everybody said here. It was a fantastic release, 2004. The best, in my opinion, that I have tried. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all very much for your kind words. I'll pass them along, as I always do.
All right, next week is Biddle Europe, so that will be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. other places like Martin is. And we are going to do 2 shows, just like we normally do on Biddle Europe week. So one will be at 3 and one will be at 8. You can join us for either or one. And we're going to definitely talk about Ubuntu Mate and whatever else we decide to come up with. As we said, Alex was on Linux Spotlight this past week. It was a great conversation.
Yes, it was.
You have to go watch this because sometimes I just wanted to say some people didn't know that I put out the audio only RSS feed for Linux Spotlight, so you can just listen to it in your favorite podcast app. But I suggest going and watching this because there were quite a few times where Alex was showing off hardware and everything, and you don't get that feel of this. You don't get the same feel in the audio as you do in the video. So that was excellent. This coming week on Wednesday at 6 a.m., I sit down with Dan Johansson from the Manjaro ARM project, actually, and we get to have a conversation about Manjaro ARM and his journey into Linux and everything else. So check that out. I think I got everything that I was supposed to say. Other than that, we will see you next week as we try out Ubuntu Mate this week. Until then, long live Linux.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.